Silver alert, white Honda, Wood County. License plates in at 0086. Old hippie got a hold of some medicine and probably some type of car or vehicle. Most likely a truck. Pull him over, rip him out of the car, put him back in the old folks' home. What the hell? Okay, so here's what they're doing. Something called the Housemaid. I don't know what that is. I can't really read it. Iron Lung. It's called Look Dine-In Cinemas. Then they're doing Shelter. Stathan? Whoever that is. I haven't heard of that one. And Send Help. And then Mercy. And if you don't like their food, you can get a Smoothie King. But Pierce Bay, I got all the food groups, even the egg food group, and of course the potato salad food group, and every vegetable known to the planet Earth. So one downfall on this particular Jason's Deli is they don't have any of the ground pepper, but they do offer these little pepper packets. So, I don't know, it's the first Jason's Deli I went to where they didn't have the actual salt and pepper shakers. But that's the only critique I have on them. Other than that, everything else tastes pretty good. And their eggs, they look pretty good too. You have to crack these peppers kind of like this. So if you want the pepper on it, then you have to just kind of like, you know, that kind of thing. Other than that, they're pretty good. And the water tastes okay. All right, that was scrumptious. The cool thing is you can go back and get another one. Sometimes it gives you a little bit of gas, but it's good for dieting and health and getting all the vegetables you need for the day. I usually get about, 6 or 7 boiled eggs and then peel them. Careful because they'll come over and actually get your food really quick. But I already finished having basically a little bit of dessert. Basically, vanilla, peanuts, chocolate. not the best Jason's Deli out there because of the salt pepper shakers, but pretty dang good. Pretty up there. Say maybe out of the top 10, say maybe up there in the maybe 70 percentile, probably the top 7 maybe. I guess that makes sense, I don't know. Well, if it doesn't, I'm sorry about that, but probably like, I don't know, like number 7 out of 10.
Thank you for shopping at Crucible.
I was telling that guy a long time ago in 1991, I used to work for Six Flags over Texas. And I was in charge that summer of helping to dispose of the dolphin algae. They had this dolphin show. And I think before that, they had a diving show where people would dive off this huge platform, and then they turned that into a dolphin show. I don't know if they incorporated the divers with the dolphins, but eventually the dolphins had to be moved out of Six Flags over Texas because of algae issues, and the dolphins weren't doing well. So we were in charge of taking one of those sprayers right there and spraying all this algae off this walkway, you know, and where they put the bleachers for the Hollywood stunt show, which was later replaced with, I believe, Batman Forever, or it was Batman. My friend Lamar was Batman, and Jessica was Batwoman. And they ended up putting a Batman show. I don't know if the Batman show is still there, but the Batman ride is. I told that guy with the sprayer that story. He just kind of laughed at me. Well, the dolphins left all this algae everywhere, and they had to remove the dolphins. They eventually removed the dolphins. I'm sure the dolphins they're probably passed away by now. I don't know how long dolphins live for. But I was in charge to make sure all the dolphin dung was completely sprayed off of the concrete. Then I later became a counter. So I counted people that came in to the Six Flags over Texas Hollywood stunt show. And also the stuntmen allowed me to jump off of the platforms and land on the cushion thing. And later I was called in for unsafe behavior. But I was like, the stuntmen do it. You're not a stuntman. You just count people with a counter. The guy sounded like Seinfeld. You're not a stuntman. You just count people. You have a counter. No, I didn't sound that way, but you know what I mean. And so I was like, okay. And then later I bought some nachos, and I had to climb over the fence, and I cut my arm, but I asked for the medical. It was like a little tiny scrape, and asked for the medical thing, and they wrote that as also unsafe behavior. And eventually I moved on. I'm glad I didn't become a stuntman. That silver alert still, it's a Honda Active SOU, it's LMS 0086. They're coming out of Wood County. Get that old Woodstock member losing his hair and his mind. He's popping LSD tablets and driving an SUV somewhere. No, that's actually a Honda. Okay, it's a Honda. He left the SUV and he jumped into a Honda. He's playing Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze. Silver alert means there's an old person out there driving. All right, I had a few, and meaning I had a few deliveries. I'm just doing this occasionally because I've averaged out a certain amount just by watching the show. I can go back and watch it for governmental purposes. But it's going to be 7 arrival, 2 minutes, and 0.3 for the pickup at Wingstop. We're on our way. Meaning I'm not going to show this as much. I'm changing styles and cameras. That's the iPhone 17 Pro. On our way. 0.2. 1 mile. 7 arrival. Wingstop on the way. Jason's Deli on our way, 7:30. Oh, cool. It's starting to do like mirroring and stuff like that. So it's like with the phone shows and everything. I didn't know it did that, but yeah, it's starting to do that. I guess with the iPhone 11. And then that's pretty cool. I'm sorry, iPhone 17. Sorry. I'm switching, well, I'm practicing with a new camera. This is iPhone 17 Pro. I just thought it was cool that it does that. It's pretty neat. There was an update. I believe it was last night. During the whole thing, someone already picked it up, but they recommend to make the order. They get the information immediately. So they get the information immediately, so they know they're going to see if they're going to remake the order. All right, I called the customer. They said they already received it, so this is all obviously some type of mix-up. Told the cook back there because they were going to remake it. So I guess maybe they made part of it, or maybe they ate the taco. I don't know. But regardless, someone got the taco. That's a nice little doggy there. All right. All right, Jason's Deli on the way, 8:08, 8 minutes, 2 point. Happening was Jason's Deli was taking their sweet little time, and in the middle of that, they inserted a Torchy Taco pickup, which they already had a driver come by to get the Torchy Taco. By the time you get to that second order that they put in there, which in this case would have been Torchy Taco, and they say they don't have it, get out of it immediately. I should have known that. I waited on it, and they lag it, and you're still responsible for the first one. They don't tell you this, but they do say it's worry-free, unassigned. It's not going to affect blah, 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 right? I want to get into the whole dialogue of it, but it does, kind of. So when you get interrupted in the middle of one of them, of one of the deliveries, and then delivery B comes in, if they don't have it immediately, get out of it as quick as you can. At least it's going to affect the rate, right? If that's the case, you might have to call them and wait. But then again, you can't wait on that puppy for more than 3 or 4 minutes at the most. So I feel this is on their butt on this one, because it's gonna come in at about 7 minutes behind schedule, and that's not my fault. not really. Torchy Tacos was crazy, and so keep an eye out on Jason's Deli and Torchy Taco. See if they get you on those two. Where you really got to get the walls to the wall to make up their little mistake of giving it to somebody else. It's a water drink. Making sure it's water. Well, you know, we got multiculturalism. All right. Yep. Is it? We're looking. Yeah, it is. All right. That's probably a trained cat from Hollywood. We're gonna. It's black. I think I got it the first one. We're gonna switch it around like this. Okay. It's a double up on Taco Bell Mama's Pizza. But that black cat started out there really slow. I want to see if I got the first shot on it. Be right back. All right, it's a double up. It's going to be a Taco Bell and a Mama's Pizza. We're going to watch this one a little close. I don't know why it's telling me to go that way. I sincerely don't know why. I think that Taco Bell can't be the other direction. It's got to be this way. Look at this. You see any kind of Lone Star hacker kind of stuff going on right here? Okay. There we go. Taco Bell first, then Mama's Pizza. And we're gonna watch it because it better be ready at Taco Bell because this could be the same thing that went on with Jason's Deli and Torchy. And this is a very convoluted show right now because of different reasons that I want to talk about. It's delivery. New Lux Value Meal, try it out. Rewards are ahead. All right, we're able to keep up with this one, so now to Mama's. Old school Mama's Pizzas, where I found out about the Heaven's Gate people whenever it was on the television, on the news. There we go. Classic. It's a classic truck alert from the back, but it's actually a pretty nice one. I can't tell if it's Chevrolet or Ford. I should know this, but it is classic. I'd say maybe Chevy. I could be wrong. Let's just say Chevy. Peter brought in the fish, and that was the revenue. But he also got militant a little bit. Jesus told him to chill, and so he had to chill a little bit. But he worked with something that was kind of like this. It was a rope that controlled the cells. Right? You had to unplug it and plug it back in, just like this. So it probably looked like this as the cell went through. Let's see if I can go through. This is a tough apartment complex. I was just there the other day. And then it reactivates. It'll turn just like the boat did. See how it turns a little bit like a boat, like it's on water? And that is what Peter was experiencing when he was on the cells to get the fish. About the same thing. It's like fishing. You have to reactivate that quite a bit. It's not gonna be perfect every time, even with the iPhone 17, unless you have like, you know, a Tesla or something, it might be perfect. But you know, they had different types of boats. They had great fishing boats, and they had boats that Peter had. Simon Peter probably didn't have the best, but he knew how to reactivate the cells and keep it going. We made it in. We gotta drop this off. Jesus. Another one. There's another black cat. It was going way over there, though. Dang black cats. The thing is, I feed one every night. When I walk and it goes before my path, I actually step over it. Because, you know, I know Amy. Amy's the black cat. But, you know, I step over a path anyway, just in case. It's kind of a funny, it's like Tron, if you ever played Tron. You know, the game is like the cat sits there and runs this way and you got to go around that way. It's a horrible thing, black cat fear. The phobia of black cat. It's really unnecessary and funny. It's really just comical. But some people take it seriously, you know. The character, and As Good as It Gets, would have been voting that black cat, as well as Cracks, you know, Nicholson. You write these women so beautifully. I take away accountability and all lack of reason, or something like that. It's gonna be this one right here. Take away accountability and any form of reason. That's how you write the women so well? And, you know, and As Good as It Gets with Nicholson. Did he win for that? Somebody won for it. Right, Maharaja Indian on its way, 9:14, 15, and 10. On our way for the delivery. And done. Done. Dun 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 dun. And don't forget a little bread, shark. Grocer Warehouse, 922-5, 1.6 pickup. We'll start with highway, you know, daytime highway morning. I didn't vlog the breakfast sandwich, but I was in a hurry. So just have to imagine that. We're on the highway. Then we'll get to Jason's Deli, you know, we get to that kind of stuff. Then as we're headed back and into our zone, we'll start with highway, you know, daytime highway morning. I didn't vlog the breakfast sandwich, but I was in a hurry. So just have to imagine that. We're on the highway. Then we'll get to Jason's Deli, you know, we get to that kind of stuff. Then as we're headed back it'll get kind of exciting with the black cat and the night and, you know, getting wherever it goes. And it's just straight shot sequence order, or you can what is this word? What's the word? Consequential, not consequential order. You know what I mean? In order. Fire Station Park. Not consecutive or consequential, it's sequential order. It's the order that it would go linear, basically. Linear order, you can say that. Or sequential. The sequence of events are sequential. So it would be linear, just say linear order. And then we'll go from there. We got to pick up this, it's called a grocery warehouse. And then we've got another one we got to pick up, and that'll be for the night. And then we'll go back and feed Kitty. We may have to cut today's Kitty is, but we'll just do a quick one. Most likely, I don't know if I'm even in the mood for ramen noodle. We'll have to find. Rib Talk, Rib parentheses, or Dog Night Out, close parentheses, dash Shepherds of Alaska. There's where the old Circle Theater used to be. I was Monty the Mountie in North Bowl Nightmare there. Okay, figured it out really. Dog Night Out is kind of representation of what happened to Doc Shelby. Doc Shelby was a dwarf. His dog's name was Puck. It was a German Shepherd. The dog was killed by a stun gun by a police officer trying to basically keep the dog from biting him as they were arresting Doc Shelby, who was belligerent after stealing a tip jar. They were going to, I guess, arrest him for disturbance. They didn't. The dog tried to bite him. They tased the dog died. So ultimately, when Doc Shelby becomes a billionaire from going rags to riches, he was once a teacher, got hooked on meth, and he got put on the street. Then he got better, got married, and then became a billionaire because of the lawsuit of what happened to him and his dog. In the long run there, he becomes very powerful, and Dog Night Out is representation of what happened to Puck. Puck was his name of his dog, but he also tried to play Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream as a teacher too, but he named the dog Puck because it represented that time in his life. The dog was killed, and Dog Night Out was created. And what Dog Night Out basically is everyone. We're talking about all the poor in spirit, from migrants to the homeless and the bums. They're all kind of scattered in a way. But he starts to form them into Dog Night Out, which means they start to have these dogs. So when, let's say, like ICE or militant officers or whatever go after them to arrest them, they have to get through their dogs or through the dogs. When the dogs are killed, there's the posted sniper, which begins, and it all happens in one night. There was like a massive takeover or takedown. This is all fiction. And so when it happens, the sniper, wherever they're located, will start to take them out, and that becomes like revolution. Now, that only happens after the second book. I haven't started that one yet. That's when Shep returns from Alaska and is proved innocent because Daniel Lucius Capex is caught. He's the serial killer that frames Shepard Dwight East, who's the good officer. He comes back to that revolution, and there's like National Guard everywhere. There's helicopters in the air. That's Dog Night Out. It's like a revolution. Shepherds of Alaska is the first book. I'm only on chapter 91. So if I get it in advance, I could finish this probably in a year. But I've been working on it for quite a bit of time. Okay, Sheba is right here. Just wanted to kind of explain Dog Night Out. It's kind of representation of what happened to Dog. There he is. It's Ginsburg. Look at this right here, though. I'm gonna get some soon. Nasty right there. And then there's Goofy. That's crazy. Chibo on the way, 9:46, 6 minutes, 1 point. Okay, so the first book is Shepherds of Alaska. The second book is probably Dog Night Out, which is a shorter book, just kind of explain the revolution. The third book is probably going to be about time travel, because Doc mentions it, and he has his theory, which is the non-existence theory, which is it means non-existence and new energy, the same thing, comes from non-existence. Any equals dm cubed times the speed of light squared, compounded, which is times dm cubed times the speed of light. I'm sorry. On the compound one, it's dm cubed times mass times the speed of light squared. Mass is interchangeable with light. So the first part of the compound is NE, which is new energy, which is the non-existence, and it comes from non-existence. Okay, so it comes from something that we don't know about yet. So it equals the speed of, well, it equals dm, which is dark mass cubed, times the speed of light squared. That's part of the compound. Then it's times compound, okay, which is basically the speed of light squared. Or actually, it's mass with the speed of light squared. They both have the dm3, so we'll start again. So it's NE, which is non-existence or new energy, equals dark mass dm cubed times the speed of light squared times dm cubed, which is dark mass cubed, times m, which is mass, and the speed of light squared, explaining that mass and light are interchangeable. It could be real. If it is, well, then that's possibly maybe this whole time travel thing, because mass is there and light is there, and they can interchange because of the dark mass, which acts as a plane in existence. So it's probably a real theory. At least to me, it's kind of real. And then that's what Doc Shelby believes in, and that's what leads to time travel in the third book. It's a theory that he talks about. He's going to talk about it in the podcast one, which will be released. It's not a real podcast. This is just what it is. It's a chapter 91, I believe. I have to go and find out if chapter 91 was already posted. Yeah, it's chapter 91. It hadn't been posted. So the podcast happens in New York City. He's already rich. He's already a billionaire. He's talking about his past, and he eventually gets around to the new energy theory, which is also comes from non-existence. He will explain it in that podcast. The dwarf will. And he's so intelligent and genius that he's almost magic. You know, it's just amazing. He's also called Doc, which is kind of representing the seven dwarves. Because there's also a Poopy and a Droopy. Remember with Jed Wilson? Poopy and Droopy are also part of kind of the group that he rescues. They're two basically homeless guys that they find in a dumpster. It's kind of a comedy, but it's not Dr. Strangelove completely. I would take it serious. I try to take it serious as a movie or a book. It's a book. It's only a novel. It's not a movie yet. But I would try to take it serious and be like, okay, yeah, it's kind of funny. But it really is this thing. Anyway, we'll get to it later. I can't be doing this long ones. I'm going to be sending this up. This is kind of just a rib moment. I don't know if I'll remember to put it in there. It's because I don't always listen to these. But anyway, we're going by Fire Station Park and got to drop off some Chiba. It's a sandwich with a dragon juice drink. The skaters are out tonight. Remember, I try to become a skater. This is what ends up happening. It's like, where's that dude? My name is Earl kind of thing. For the third novel, I guess you say, series in Rib is about time travel. I haven't given a name yet, but it'll have Rib series in it. So the doc has already come up with it's basically a theory. It's it's a theorem. So it's NE equals dm cubed times the speed of light squared times dm cubed times m mass times the speed of light squared. So it's two different things, two different things representing the interchangeable of mass and light. Right, one more, and then we go and see Kitty, or we basically feed Kitty. So whether it's a real theorem or not, I can sit there and explain. It's basically saying that mass and energy are interchangeable. And they're like, well, how is that possible? Well, how was energy equals mass times the speed of light squared possible? You know, it's about the same thing. It's not necessarily saying what exactly is energy. It's stating what exactly is the opposite of that, which is non-existence, which is new energy. It's a different type of energy. It probably needs a better vernacular. Dark mass is a plane that light can travel. Now, this can be proven within the theorem. Dark mass is a plane that light, which is a form of energy, can travel. Okay? It has to have dark matter as part of its components in order for it to work. Now, whether it leads to what's known as time travel, right, that's an idea. There was probably different theories of what an atom was and what could split an atom.
There are police reported
Of course
ahead.
there are. And what could split an atom and things like that, right? There was theories of what that could be. But it could not be understood without E equals mc squared, because we had to understand that energy had components and a functioning component that actually had physical movement, because it's two different ideas at the same time. Einstein's theories. It deals with two different theories. And you know what they are? One of them is basically geometry. All right, so I was rudely interrupted. Well, it wasn't really, but you know what I mean. There were two different things that Einstein was talking about when he was talking about E equals mc squared. There's two different, I don't know, segments of science, you could say, or two different ideas of science. One being geometry and one being geometric, you could say. The shape of things and the movement. That was one thing he was talking about. And I believe the other is physics, which is physical movement as well. Geometric and physics. There were like two different things. So it wasn't just physics that he was, you know, or even people related to astrophysics that he was talking about. He was also talking about movement, because light moved and there was mass. And those two things component together, he was saying that there was a relationship between light and mass and energy, basically. This is a relationship between dark matter, light and mass, and dark matter and light, and the two being interchangeable and being non-existent, as well as new energy. So it's something that arrives, and whether it's been proven or not, some time travel stuff has talked about it. Some movies have talked about something they didn't understand, a particle that would appear within the mechanisms of the nuclear reaction of electrons and photons and all these things moving together and moving throughout a certain pattern. And some of the patterns were not explained, right? Even in science today, possibly. They call it maybe a Z particle, a particle that could not explain its movement because it was moving in and out of basically existence, is what they were saying in the movie. They explain it differently. They talk about the pattern that it makes, and that it all of a sudden appears and then it's gone again. Then it's gone and then reappears again. Then it's gone and then it reappears again. So it was saying that there's a possible particle out there that just appears all of a sudden. We don't know what to name it, so we're going to call it the Z particle, and it just appears all of a sudden, and then it goes away, and we can't trace it. We can't call it anything. We can't call it a nucleus, or we can't call it, we can't call it an electron, we can't call it a proton, we can't call it a photon. We don't have a name for it, so we'll call it a Z particle. It's got to be something. Well, dark mass arrives way later after this movie. I didn't hear about dark mass in the 80s when I was a kid. And dark mass is stating that it's everywhere, and that it moves at a different speed. We can say faster or we can say slower. They can argue either way, just like we can argue the Earth is 1 billion years or 6,000 years old, right? They can argue either way. There's proof of both. that the Earth itself could be 1 billion, or the Earth itself is only a few thousand years old, right? The new age, or the new Earth theory, they call it. So, can it be both? Well, I've even heard in geology, or is it geography? In geography, I heard in geography that it could be 1 million. It could be 30-something million. And then they talk about even it being older, like in billions. So they even contradict themselves in that theory. And then there's carbon and all these other proofs and things like this. Oh, well, this is the reason why. And the carbon theory is not necessarily sound. That they're basing it on carbon and things like this, and it's not necessarily a sound theory. Well, dark matter is being proven and being accepted. It's got to be accepted. But in a geometric explanation, is it a plane? What does it look like? How does it travel? And we still haven't even been able to explain exactly the shape of light. That it can bend a little bit, maybe. There's like different theories on what it exactly is, right? There's a few sound theories, but there's no explanation or photograph or anything of it, what it looks exactly. There's definitely not of dark matter, it being nearly invisible or not being able to be seen, especially with the human eye, just like we weren't able to see the electrons and things like that happening when Einstein's age was around and he was trying to develop E=mc², the theory of relativity. So those theories were loosely based, yet you could not see them until later on when we started to use the microscopes that could actually follow them, right? Dark mass will come to that age. New energy, which is non-existent now, right? I'm only talking about it as a non-existent thing until it arrives into existence. That's how we had to think with energy. With Einstein, we had to think until it arrived into our existence and became something. Oh, there is mass. Oh, it can travel. Oh, and also there's a speed of light, and it can go fast. It can go 2 times its own speed and make it back and begin to move, and energy begins to create, right? Then we started thinking like nuclear physicists, but not until that theory had arrived. Thus, the new energy theory could be something that's sound, even though it's in a fictional book. It could be sound. But I'd probably talk to some mathematicians and lay it out for the logic of the actual math, because I did deal in logarithms in college, and I hung out with math geniuses for hours on end. But I never had any theories at the time. But they were always trying to solve like an astrophysics problem. I couldn't even begin to tackle it. This just came from imagination. But I think it was Einstein that said that the imagination and the question is more important than knowing the element chart and that what is of the past, right? Anyway, that's a theory. Now, NE equals dm cubed times the speed of light squared times dm cubed times m times the speed of light squared. NE theory. And they should really fix these roads. 88 miles per hour, Marty. 88 miles per hour, not 60. I ain't going 88 right now. I'm saving gas. Aspect of any theory, non-existence, new energy theory, it's not based in science. It's actually based in fiction. That's what's interesting about it. Right, so here it is. So I talk about envelope, right? You have to think of it this way. Mass and light enveloping each other. Just as water can fill a bowl, right? So water can go into a bowl and fill it. The bowl envelopes the water, and the water, in a way, envelopes the bowl. They fill each other, in a way. Fill as in F-I-L-L. The light fills the mass, and the mass fills the light. They don't become the same thing, but they work on a plane of the dark mass. The dark mass is like its vehicle, almost, that it's traveling on. You could say a plane. In geometry, it would be drawn as the dark mass being a plane. The light traveling on the dark mass. And one aspect of the theory. And the other aspect, it's light and mass that travels. And both of them envelope one another. Almost you could say maybe how maybe a magnet works in a way, even though it's not necessarily chemical like a magnet is. So it would draw one another. Both of them would use one another in a way, envelope one another. Now, I mentioned a crack in time and space, which is where the non-existence is, where this new energy has not arrived yet. Yet it's there, but it has not arrived in our existence. Just at one time before Einstein, we never understood an electron properly, right? We never understood the components of, let's say, nuclear fission, and how it functioned. So it's not there yet. So it hasn't arrived. Thus, it's non-existent. But it's new energy. That's one way to explain it. But they work with one another. So one side of the compound of the theory, which is light and mass, and the speed of light squared is on one side. And on the other side is the same compound, but with mass. One side only has the light and the speed of light, right, traveling, and the dark matter cubed, which is, I guess, explaining that its formation is cubed, as opposed to, I think I'm saying that wrong. Hang on, cubed. I think I said it right. Hang on. Yes, cubed as opposed to squared. The dark mass is cubed as opposed to squared. So its actual movement, as well as its speed, is different than light's speed. Now we know on the other side, we are including mass, because that's what's all around us, right? This is mass. I'm holding mass. Everything is mass, right? This window is mass. So on that side, mass is there. And of course, the speed of light, and of course dark matter being before that and for its travel. So one would take from the other. And in this, there is a crack where the new energy is. It's a limitless, unlimited amount of energy that's beyond anything that we can understand, but its function is of storage, right? Not of expulsion, which is nuclear fusion maybe, and fission, which are two different things, but expulsion in the fact, meaning the opposite, which is enveloping, meaning it's storing the energy. The energy is being stored. It's for storage. The theory is ultimately. I'd probably say that. I think I have said it and written it. It's on my Facebook. So it's ultimately for storage. So it would, let's say, in military terms, if the military would be like, okay, how do we take advantage of this or something like that? Well, and why it's important in the story, Rib, is if there was a nuclear explosion or of something like that from a missile, it would envelope it. It would just take it right out of existence, as if the nuclear bomb or the nuclear explosion never even existed. It would envelope it and store it immediately. Thus, time, matter, everything that we can think of the movement of light and its functions as well as mass would be enveloped in this thing that we don't see, that it's always there, traveling in different speeds, like cubed and squared, like light travels at the speed of light squared, right? Dark mass is traveling cubed and at a different speed, possibly, I think, faster. Someone may say slower, and I would like to explore that too. Maybe it travels at different speeds, very, very slow, then very, very fast kind of thing. But it's enveloping because mass, or actually particles, or any kind of energy has to be stored, which no one really ever talks about. I haven't really heard of it. So Hawkins, I remember going to Austin and reading some of his books in the bookstore, and Hawkins did explore bubbles and time. He also explored wormholes and things being enveloped within a different parallel universe. He talked about it. Hawkins talked about it, parallel universe, and he was also saying that all these things are connected. These wormholes are connected, all this stuff in time and space, the black hole theory and all these other theories that he was coming up with, the theory of everything and all this other stuff, right? This would be that storage of where these things could go. And that's where the power lies, is in its opposite effect of something like nuclear fission or nuclear fusion, which I think I've been told by a physicist, a nuclear physicist, that those two things are different. I did talk to one before. That's one thing he corrected me. Yes, nuclear fusion is different than fission. Well, regardless, there is expulsion involved in both. And we have noticed in our society that expulsion is actually quite damaging. This would be quite opposite. So we have, in the military terms, we have offense, right? So the nuclear bomb is an offensive move, right? It creates an extreme offense, destroying many. Look what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all that stuff. That's an extreme offense. This would be the extreme opposite of the offense. It would be extreme defense. It would be for the military defense if the military sought use in it. I don't know if Einstein ever talked about the theory of relativity in the military. Most likely he was kind of a peace activist, but there's nothing wrong with defense, and that's what it would be used for. At least in my book it is, in my story, the novel. At least that's what the dwarf creates. Is that Mr. Kitty? Say goodnight.